A chill runs down your spine, not from the crisp autumn air outside, but from a growing unease deep within. It's a quiet whisper that the headlines you scroll past each morning, the effortless digital transactions you make, and the anxieties you carry might just be threads in a tapestry far older, far more sinister than you ever dared to imagine. You see our world, the United States, rushing headlong into an uncertain future. Political divides, economic tremors, cultural shifts that feel like tectonic plates grinding. Yet, what if the true danger isn't the chaos itself, but the order emerging from it? An order so subtly crafted, so deeply embedded in our everyday lives that most of us, even those who claim to know the scriptures, are completely blind to its true purpose. What if the very foundations being laid right now are not just preparing the stage, but actively birthing the Antichrist and enabling the mark of the beast, not as a sudden, cataclysmic event ripped from a Hollywood blockbuster, but through a calculated, almost imperceptible process? Think about it. Paul warned, when they say peace and safety, then sudden destruction will come upon them. Daniel spoke of a horn growing strong, trampling the saints. But what if that promised peace is the very mechanism of deception, and the trampling has already begun? Not with overt persecution you'd see on the nightly news, but with a silent, systemic re-education of the masses. This isn't about fear-mongering, it's about waking up. Our deep dive today will reveal the pre-beast synthesis, a meticulously orchestrated convergence of spiritual apathy, historical amnesia, and technological advancement that is not merely setting the stage for the Antichrist, but is in fact the hidden reason behind his emergence, rendering most Christians utterly unaware of the true nature of the beast. You might think you're safe, that you'll know the signs when they appear, that your faith is a shield. But what if your very understanding has been subtly inverted, leaving you vulnerable to the most sophisticated deception in human history? The stakes couldn't be higher. Ignore this truth, and you risk not only spiritual blindness, but a very real, material subjugation. Imagine a world where every purchase, every interaction, every piece of personal data becomes a digital chain, where your very participation in society, from buying groceries to getting healthcare, requires an unthinking compliance. This isn't some far-off sci-fi dystopia. The blueprints are being drawn, the systems are being tested in plain sight across our nation, and the cultural narrative is being shaped right now. Your future, your freedom, and your eternal destiny hinge on discerning the truth behind the headlines, seeing through the carefully constructed illusions that promise comfort but deliver control. Yet with this understanding comes immense hope, a clarity that empowers you to stand firm, to protect yourself and your loved ones, and to live with purpose in a world teetering on the edge. We'll uncover 3 critical junctures where biblical prophecy, historical patterns, and current events are locking into place, forming the backbone of the pre-beast synthesis. First, we'll trace the ancient echoes of Daniel's empires, not just as dusty historical footnotes, but as chilling prototypes for the global governance architecture now taking shape, moving beyond mere geopolitical shifts to a unified system that demands total allegiance. Then, we'll expose the 5 subtle indicators within contemporary culture and technology, from the pervasive reach of AI and personal data to the rapid normalization of digital identity and currency, that are conditioning humanity for a universal system of control, making the mark of the beast less about a physical brand and more about an unavoidable systemic integration. Finally, we'll decode the 4 phases of the Antichrist's ascent, showing how a figure of unparalleled charisma and cunning will rise from the ashes of manufactured crises, leveraging these pre-existing systems to offer solutions that come with an unimaginable cost. But before we get there, you need to ask yourself, are you prepared to confront the possibility that the Antichrist won't be the villain you expect? The truth is, many of us, conditioned by Hollywood blockbusters and simplified sermons, expect a cartoonish supervillain, overtly evil, undeniably demonic, arriving with a thunderclap. But what if the Antichrist doesn't arrive as a conquering warlord, but as a peacemaker, a problem solver, a unifier who offers stability in a fractured world? This is where the first critical juncture of the pre-beast synthesis begins to sharpen into focus. The ancient echoes of Daniel's empires. We often read Daniel's visions of beasts and statues as dusty historical footnotes, mere prophecies fulfilled long ago by Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. But what if these weren't just past events, but chilling prototypes, blueprints for the global governance architecture now taking shape? Think about it. Each of Daniel's empires, in its own way, sought not just territorial conquest, but a profound cultural and ideological assimilation. Babylon demanded worship of its golden image. Persia imposed its laws across vast lands. Greece, through Hellenization, sought to unify thought and culture. And Rome, with its unparalleled legal and administrative systems, created an empire that integrated diverse peoples under a single, overarching authority. Now, fast forward to today, look at the relentless push for global accords, the interconnectedness of world economies, the digital infrastructure that transcends national borders, and the growing influence of international bodies. This isn't just about geopolitical shifts. It's about a subtle yet undeniable gravitation towards a unified system that, much like its ancient predecessors, will ultimately demand total allegiance. Hold on to that thought. How many times have we seen history repeat itself, with promises of utopia leading to totalitarian nightmares? From ancient Rome's cult of emperor worship, where refusal to offer incense to Caesar could mean death, to the ideological fervors of the 20th century, Nazism, communism, humanity's yearning for a savior often paves the way for a dictator. The patterns are eerily consistent. The initial promise of order and prosperity, the gradual erosion of individual freedoms, the eventual demand for unquestioning loyalty. This isn't just an abstract historical observation. It's a chilling premonition of how the Antichrist will leverage these very human tendencies, this inherent desire for a strong hand in times of chaos. Before we dive into the 5 subtle indicators within contemporary culture and technology, consider this. The beast in Revelation is not just a single entity, but an entire system, a global apparatus of control. It's the spirit that animated those ancient empires, now manifesting on a scale previously unimaginable. It's a mechanism of deception so sophisticated that it will appear to be the only logical solution to a world in crisis. And this, my friends, brings us to the very edge of understanding how deeply embedded this synthesis truly is. So what are these subtle indicators, these seemingly innocuous threads weaving the tapestry of the pre-beast synthesis right before our very eyes? The first, and perhaps most insidious, is the pervasive reach of artificial intelligence in personal data. Think about it. Every swipe, every search, every purchase you make online is meticulously recorded. From the moment you wake up and check your phone, to the apps that track your fitness, your location, even your heartbeat. Big tech isn't just observing you. It's building a digital clone, a predictive model of your very existence. This isn't just about targeted ads for a new pair of sneakers. This is about understanding your vulnerabilities, your desires, your political leanings, and even your spiritual inclinations, with an accuracy that would make any totalitarian regime of the past green with envy. Remember those privacy policies you blindly clicked agree on? That was the quiet, almost unheard sound of 1,000 tiny chains being forged. We've willingly surrendered our digital selves, believing the convenience outweighed the cost. But what if that cost is far greater than we could ever imagine? What if the data collected today isn't just for profit, but for precision-guided influence and ultimately control? Consider the algorithms that curate your news feed, shaping your worldview, subtly nudging your opinions. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's the operational reality of Silicon Valley, influencing everything from elections to consumer habits. And here's the unsettling truth. This constant algorithmic curation of reality is conditioning us, training us to accept external guidance, to trust the system more than our own discernment. This is the silent re-education that Paul warned us about, not through overt propaganda, but through personalized digital whispers. Now, hold that thought about pervasive data collection because it dovetails directly into our second indicator, the rapid normalization of digital identity and currency. You might have seen the headlines about central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs, being explored by the Federal Reserve and governments worldwide. This isn't just about making transactions faster, it's about creating a traceable, programmable form of money. Imagine a world where every dollar you spend, every financial decision you make is not just recorded, but potentially controlled. A world where your social credit score, a concept already being tested in other nations, could dictate your access to essential services, travel, or even certain purchases. This isn't a speculative future. The discussions are happening right now in Washington, D.C., in think tanks across the nation. They promise efficiency, security, and convenience, just like the beast promises peace and safety. But what if that efficiency comes with an invisible leash? What if the security is really about surveillance, and the convenience is a Trojan horse for total compliance? We're being subtly nudged toward a cashless society, a world where every financial interaction leaves an indelible digital footprint. This is the groundwork for a system where dissent can be financially throttled, where compliance becomes a prerequisite for participation. And that, my friends, is a terrifying prospect, one that sets the stage for the ultimate test of allegiance. But before we explore how this digital identity becomes the linchpin, consider the psychological impact of this pervasive, always-on digital existence. Consider the psychological impact of this pervasive, always-on digital existence. Because it's not just about making transactions faster, it's about something far more insidious, something that reshapes our very minds. Think about it. Every search query, every social media interaction, every purchase made with your phone or card, it all leaves a digital breadcrumb. We've become accustomed to this, haven't we? We accept targeted ads, personalized recommendations, and the convenience of instant access. But here's where it gets unsettling. This constant digital surveillance fosters a quiet, almost imperceptible self-censorship. You begin to think twice about what you say online, what opinions you express, knowing that a digital dossier is being built, a profile that could one day be used against you. This isn't paranoia. It's a natural human response to being observed. And this subtle pressure, this gentle nudge towards conformity, is precisely how societies are conditioned. It's the silent re-education, a systemic shaping of thought and behavior. What if the very tools designed to make our lives easier, to make transactions faster and more seamless, are simultaneously eroding our individual autonomy, preparing us for a world where independent thought is a liability? Now, imagine a world where your access to those faster transactions, to that digital currency, is contingent upon your adherence to a specific set of social and political norms. This isn't some far-off dystopian novel. This is the conversation happening right now in the halls of power, disguised as social responsibility or ethical compliance. The promise of efficiency and unparalleled convenience is a powerful lure, drawing us deeper into a system that, on the surface, appears benevolent. But underneath, it's building a framework of control so complete, so integrated into our daily lives, that opting out becomes increasingly impossible. This is the very essence of the pre-beast synthesis, how technological advancements, presented as solutions, become the subtle chains that bind us. And this brings us to the third critical indicator, one that many Christians miss entirely, even as it unfolds before their eyes: the escalating rhetoric of global unity and the quiet dismantling of national sovereignty. You see, the promise of global unity sounds almost utopian, doesn't it? Who wouldn't want a world free of conflict, a planet united against common threats like climate change or future pandemics? Yet, peel back the layers of this compelling narrative, and you'll find something far more unsettling. This isn't just about nations cooperating. It's about a deliberate, methodical push towards a single overarching system of governance, where national sovereignty, the very foundation of our American Republic, is slowly, almost imperceptibly, being dissolved. Consider how often you hear calls for global solutions to every major crisis. From the World Economic Forum to the United Nations, the language is always about interdependence, shared responsibility, and the need for a unified front. It sounds noble, even necessary. But what if this constant drumbeat for unity is actually conditioning us to accept a universal authority, one that ultimately bypasses democratic processes and individual rights? Take, for instance, the discussions around a global digital ID. Experts at international summits openly advocate for it, citing efficiency and security. Then, look at the increasing number of international treaties and agreements that quietly cede aspects of national control to transnational bodies. And in your own daily life, how many times have you encountered a product or service that seamlessly integrates across borders, blurring the lines of national origin and regulation? These aren't isolated incidents. They are threads in a carefully woven tapestry designed to diminish the power of individual nations, including our own, and prepare the way for a centralized global structure. This isn't just theory, it's unfolding in real time. But what happens when the solutions offered by this global framework come with an unspoken demand for absolute compliance? What happens when your loyalty to your nation, your community, or even your faith becomes secondary to the dictates of a global authority? The implications for personal freedom, for the very fabric of American liberty, are profound. And here's where the true danger lies. Many Christians, caught up in the allure of peace and safety, are completely missing the subtle redefinition of what it means to be sovereign, both as a nation and as an individual. This insidious shift, this pre-beast synthesis, leverages our spiritual apathy, our tendency to trust human systems over divine warnings, and our historical amnesia, forgetting the lessons of empires past that promised order but delivered tyranny. We're being subtly re-educated to see national identity as divisive and global governance as enlightened. But before we explore the shocking truth of how this global framework directly enables the Antichrist's ascent and how it will manifest in your daily life, hold this thought. What if the very institutions we've been taught to trust are unknowingly building the cage? And here's the chilling answer. Many of them are, often with the best intentions, building that very cage around you, around your children, and around the fabric of what was once a sovereign nation. We are being systematically re-educated, aren't we? Think about it. From the headlines you scroll past, to the narratives shaping our schools, even to the entertainment we consume, there's a relentless, pervasive message. National identity, the very idea of a distinct American spirit, is increasingly framed as divisive, as a relic of a less enlightened past. This isn't about patriotism versus globalism in a simple political debate. This is a profound spiritual recalibration. You see it in the subtle ways historical figures are re-evaluated, in the critique of foundational principles, in the constant chipping away at the notion that America, or any nation, holds a unique, God-given purpose. This narrative, carefully constructed and amplified, teaches us to view borders as barriers, national interests as selfish, and loyalty to your own people as inherently problematic. It's a sophisticated inversion of values, designed to dismantle the very identity that could resist a truly global system. Now, contrast this with what's being offered as the solution: global governance. It's presented as the enlightened path, the only way to solve the world's most complex problems: climate change, pandemics, economic instability. We are told that only through a unified supranational authority can we achieve true peace and safety. Think of the calls for global health passports, for international digital currencies, for worldwide regulations on everything from speech to carbon emissions. These aren't just policy proposals. They are the building blocks of a new world order, meticulously designed to bypass national sovereignty and consolidate power. This is the insidious beauty of the pre-beast synthesis. It doesn't storm the gates. It subtly redesigns the fortress from within, making you believe the walls themselves are the problem. It exploits our spiritual apathy, our wariness from division, and our longing for an easier, more unified existence. It's a re-education that makes global compliance feel like moral progress, a natural evolution. But before we unveil the shocking truth of how this global framework directly enables the Antichrist's ascent, and how it will manifest in your daily life. Hold this thought. What if the very peace being promised is actually the precursor to the greatest deception? And what if your willingness to embrace this global unity, believing it to be virtuous, unknowingly aligns you with the very system the Bible warns against? The next layer of this truth will make you question everything. You see, the beast won't storm the gates of your convictions with an army and a declaration of war. That's the popular, dramatic image we've been fed, and it's precisely why so many will miss the true invasion. Instead, the strategy is far more insidious, a subtle re-engineering of the very foundations of our thought, of our culture, right here in America. It's about redesigning the fortress from within, making you believe the walls themselves, the pillars of individual sovereignty, the sanctity of traditional values, the very notion of independent thought, are the problem. Think about it. Our spiritual apathy, our exhaustion from endless political and social divisions, our deep-seated longing for an easier, more unified existence. These aren't weaknesses to be overcome by grace, but vulnerabilities to be exploited by a system. This is the silent coup of the pre-beast synthesis. What we're witnessing is a profound re-education, not just in schools, but through every screen, every news cycle, every digital platform, that makes global compliance feel not like subjugation, but like moral progress. It's pitched as a natural evolution, a necessary step for humanity to overcome its self-inflicted wounds. You're told that national borders are archaic, that diverse beliefs are divisive, that individual rights must yield to collective good for the sake of peace and safety. Consider how quickly narratives shift in our public discourse, shaping what's acceptable to believe or even say. Yesterday's fringe idea often becomes tomorrow's enlightened consensus, particularly when it serves the agenda of global integration. Look at the relentless push for digital IDs and centralized digital currency, framed as efficiency and security, yet subtly eroding privacy and personal autonomy under the guise of progress. Or the way dissenting voices, once protected by free speech, are now algorithmically suppressed or labeled as misinformation across platforms, effectively creating a single approved worldview. This isn't brute force. It's a gentle nudge, a constant hum of consensus building that makes questioning the new normal feel almost un-American, unvirtuous, even bigoted. This constant conditioning, this slow but steady surrender of individual discernment for the promise of collective harmony, is the bedrock upon which the Antichrist's reign will be built. But before we reveal the shocking truth of how this global framework directly enables his ascent, and how it will manifest in your daily life, you need to understand the true cost of this manufactured peace. What happens when the very mechanism designed to unite us becomes the ultimate tool of control? What happens when the very mechanism designed to unite us becomes the ultimate tool of control? It transforms into the pre-beast synthesis in its final, most insidious form, a system where convenience becomes compliance, and collective safety demands individual subjugation. This isn't a future threat. It's the present reality taking root, subtly reshaping our world, our choices, and our very discernment. The Antichrist doesn't merely arrive. He is enabled by this pre-existing architecture, a global framework that has already conditioned millions across America to accept a universal authority for the sake of an engineered peace. You see, the beast isn't just a figure. It's the culmination of a spirit of control, woven into the fabric of society, disguised as progress. But here's the unwavering truth, the hope that cuts through the deception. Armed with this understanding, you are no longer blind. You can now recognize the subtle threads, the digital chains, the narratives of manufactured peace. Your discernment, sharpened by biblical truth, becomes your shield. This journey isn't meant to instill fear, but to awaken a resolute faith, a clarity that empowers you to stand firm, to protect what truly matters, and to live with purpose in these pivotal times. If you've stayed until now, absorbing these critical truths, you are part of this community, a community committed to seeing beyond the veil. Click on the next episode, because there I'll unveil the 7 prophetic triggers of the end times, revealing the exact sequence of events that will precede the Antichrist's final global revelation.